Hello everyone, and welcome to the Noonchi Deep Dive, being introspective with Kdramas from a mental health perspective. Happy April! This month's theme is relationships. Relationships. I asked a big question recently on social media. How realistic do you think are K-drama relationships? And not just the romantic ones. But to kick things off, I'm going to talk about romantic relationships, particularly a specific one in K-dramas. But I wanted to ask that question because I wanted to know your view. You know, there's not one answer. It is a K-drama, first of all, so take that into account, dramatized. But what you're looking at in the relationships, in my opinion, is real. Just saying. That's my opinion. So I'm going to outline the best I can to tackle that question in various ways from a mental health perspective, starting with the romantic relationship. Why? Well, I just celebrated 24 years of marriage with my husband. It went by super fast. So I'm kind of in that romantic space right now. So let's kick things off with featuring, come on, business proposal, which I'll be honest with you, is the perfect proposal of a K-drama. Yeah, shout out to my friend Catherine, who suggested I watch it because I was kind of in this low space of K-dramas. I was watching them and enjoying them, but they were on the heavier topics like 39, Forecasting Love and Weather, and I think I needed something light. And that is perfect because I cracked up at the very first scene, I think. Whatever it was, within 5 minutes, it had me hooked because of just the comedy, which sometimes we need in our lives, and I needed it at the time. Came at a good time for me, especially in my work. And Business Proposal has all the relationships. I'm not going to just focus on that K-drama, but for today I will. It has all the relationships that I'm going to outline that as best as I can this month. From romance to bromance to womance, the female relationships, friendships, fammance, family, workmance, halmance, harmony, harabaji relationship, and then frenemy relationship. Yeah, you know those frenemies, friend, enemy, can't decide which one they belong in. The business proposal K-drama has all of it. Don't you agree? I love it. But just to kick things off, let's focus on the romantic relationship, particularly in the leads. Now, I love the second leads too, but I'm going to really focus on this deep dive with Shin Hari and Kang Tae-moo's relationship. Which particular aspect am I going to focus on? Are you wondering? Are you wondering? The romantic part of it? Yeah, what makes it romantic? Well, I thought this was super romantic. I really liked a most recent episode, episode 10. What does Shin Hari do? Think for a second. This is a spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't seen and you're not that far along in Business Proposal, watch it. Highly recommend it to boost just your mood, fun, levity, and laughs, which is very much needed. Shin Hari handles very well Kang Tae-moo's trauma. And I want you to look at that as an example. If you're in a relationship, considering a relationship, or you're on that end of trauma like Kang Tae-moo is, how do you feel about your trauma? Kang Tae-moo hasn't revealed a lot of that. In fact, he hasn't revealed any of it to her at that point. Okay, and she overhears a conversation in the elevator, and I'm going to point that out too. By the elevator, she overhears two colleagues talking about, Kang Tae-moo, he can't drive in the rain because of what happened to his parents who got killed in a car accident. Spoiler alert, in the rain. And that's traumatized him ever since. She hears this because she had no idea. And she's like, oh, I didn't know that, right? And you see her expression of, wow, understanding my boyfriend better. But let me just take a side note of how the colleagues share that trauma. This is why it's difficult for those who have been through trauma, a traumatic event, who are struggling with post-traumatic stress symptoms. Well, that particular scene, the colleague was like, yeah, poor him. Let me point that out to you briefly. That's why it's difficult for some folks to talk about their traumatic events, traumatic memories, because it's, first of all, very vulnerable. They need that very safe space to share, to heal, and you want them to share because it's super important for them to have that support system. But when they're met with pity, sympathy, not empathy, sympathy, oh, 속상해, that's a Korean word, oh, so sorry. That's not the best reaction, I want to say. They need empathy, validation, and just showing that they had the courage to share, validating that. Not the, oh, yeah, you're traumatized because you can't drive in the rain now. I'm just pointing that out because that's just a tip for you to understand when you're responding to someone sharing about their trauma. Guess what Shinhari does in episode 10 that I think is brilliant and that I think is realistic, or I want you to take that realistic point of view into a romantic relationship. She doesn't broach the subject with him. She doesn't say on this beautiful date that they were having that happened in the rain, hey, so boyfriend, 남자 친구, 남친, tell me about your trauma. I'd love to hear about it. I overheard this. I was actually wondering what was going to happen, and it goes back to that flashback, but she handles it beautifully. Subtle. Knowing, okay, so that's why he reacts that way in the rain. I remember he reacted that way before, kicked me out of the car. Remember that episode? Episode 6? Kicked me out of the car, and like all of a sudden she's like, what? It's pouring rain? But she kind of put two and together based on his reaction to not liking rainy days. Do you remember that? And then episode 10, they're having a beautiful date in the rain. It starts raining when they're outside. You see his face. Now, they're not driving, so that's probably better off for him, but you see his face going, okay, and she knows it and brings that. So she is the nitress or the knightus or whatever you call it. Knight in shining armor, basically, female version. Female knight in shining armor when she does that for him. I thought that was a beautiful moment. I was kind of like, interesting. She had a knowing look about the rain. So I assumed, okay, using her Noonchi, sharp eye measure, she knew that he had sensitivity to rain. At that point, she actually knew about the trauma. Does that make sense? But we don't know that as a viewer. As a viewer, we're just going, oh, she has some Noonchi. She knows that he has this trauma that we don't think she knows, but then later on it's revealed that she knows about it, and that's how she handles it. And then even in the rain, what did she do in that episode on their date? She stalled. She kept stalling so they wouldn't have to drive or go out in the rain. She kept going, let's go to this, let's go to that, the flowers, all this stuff. Don't you think that's believably done? So here's the realistic part. Normally we see the knight in shining armor, the chaebol, the rich CEO falling in love with the poor girl or the normal class girl like Shinhari. Yes, that's there. And you're right. The situations aren't realistic, but that's the drama. So I really don't want to include that because we're seeing a drama for fun and entertainment. And no offense, nobody wants to see our real lives. Nobody wants to see a documentary or mine, America's Funniest Home Videos. I mean, nobody wants to see that. We want to see fairy tale-like things, but realistic values, realistic virtues that I want to point out that we see in this romantic relationship between Kang Tae-moo and Shinhari. She handled that trauma beautifully. She's in her head, I'm thinking, oh, you know, he hasn't shared that with me, so I'm going to respect that, give him space. And knowing that she would hope, I'm assuming every girl thinks this, every guy thinks this in a relationship, you want the partner to tell you their innermost secrets. So we're assuming that she thinks that. But in that date, she stalled for time, made sure that he did not have to drive. And then when they left that date, he figured it out. He's smart. He's like, because she was giving lots of clues, and even he was baffled by her behavior, right? And stalling for time and giving him space, knowing what that rain could do to trigger him. And he goes, how long have you known? I love that, and I wanted to point that out to you, that to me is beautiful and well done and realistic. So a piece of advice, understanding how relationships work, and when someone's dealing with the trauma, it's hard enough to even deal with it and be traumatized from something. Oh my goodness, yes. But then to have a partner in a relationship or, you know, experience it with someone else and having to share it is super difficult because you're reliving some of that and you don't really know how the other person is going to take it, right? So it's very important for you to show that respect and that safe space that provide that psychological space of healing, which may be in that person's own time, not yours. And Shinhari knew that. I thought that was beautifully, beautifully done. So that's my point of pointing out that romantic relationship. And then, of course, the second leads, when, you know, just real briefly, what I thought was really beautifully done was honestly that mini breakup that had that little misunderstanding. Well, I thought that was well done. So you're not seeing all roses and, you know, from a, you know, rose-tinted glasses, how beautiful a relationship is. So reality is subjective. Reality is subjective. How you view things, your reality is based on how you view things, and how I view things is based on me. So what I'm trying to get at, respect one another's opinions when it comes to realistic relationships. Depending on the space that you're in, wherever you are, in a relationship, not in a relationship, single, broken up, bitter about things, we're all in certain spaces. You may view K-drama relationships in a way that's different. No, it's not realistic, Jeannie. Yeah, no, that ain't gonna ever happen. Kang Tae-moo, Shinhari, blah, 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 right? That's true. All of that is true. Do not deny any of that. My opinion, though, Why we love our K-drama so much, because it was completely too far-fetched, then we would know that's far-fetched and we'd say it. But we get drawn to things like Business Proposal, why it's doing so well, because it has all the elements of all the relationships that I just talked about, yes, that I'm going to outline in this month with other various K-dramas, is the fact that it meets all of those tropes. We like things predictable, we like an ending, and we do like things happy. Things can happen that are sad, but it's always nice to have a happy ending. That's another reason why K-dramas are popular. Happy endings. They're mostly predictable, and they're there, and we need that. We need that predictability. Do you know that predictability is very important for dealing with trauma? So I'm all over the place, but I want to say romantic relationship, pointing out Business Proposal, Shin Hari's, the way she dealt with finding out about his childhood trauma was not to be in his face. So let's talk. I'd love to hear about this. And she might not even said, oh, I heard about this. She could have just asked simply, so what are some of the things that are difficult to you growing up? What would you like to share? I'd like to hear about your innermost secrets. She could have done that. She did not. She took that information, thought about his benefit, and knew that when he was ready to share, he would be ready to share. Men need respect, women need love. On that note, she respected the space he needed. And look at the way he kind of said, how long have you known? And he even said, I felt I would feel like less of a man, or I was wondering how I was going to feel less than. I didn't want to feel that way. That is very realistic too, for a man to say going, yeah, I didn't want to share that with you because I wanted to look a certain way. Chivalrous, the knight in shining armor. But let's point out Shin Hari is the female knight in shining armor for this one. Well, that's it for this deep dive, folks. Very brief on the romantic relationships. We'll delve deep more through this month, talk about it, have these conversations on what it looks like to really navigate relationships that are healthy. There's going to be toxicity always that we will face. So it's not about avoiding toxicity in a relationship. It happens. Work relationships are difficult, perhaps. Even family relationships can be toxic. I'm going to break those all down. Love Business Proposal, watch it if you haven't. Romantic relationships, dealing with the trauma, Shin Hari's experience with that, how she dealt with it and nuanced it, and basically gave Kangtamu the space. Thank you for watching Noona's Noonchi Deep Dive. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button to get notified of new videos to come.